Hello students, today we are going to start chapter number 3, current electricity. Now students, first two chapters they were related to static electricity, means in that the charge particle they were stationary, they were not in motion. But now onwards from this chapter we will study what will happen when the charge they will move. When the charge flows, what happens? So now about topic 3.1, introduction. Electric current means the charge is in motion. When the charge they moves, they produce electric current. Now we have experienced the currents in our day-to-day life. Means whenever we switch on any electronic gadget, the current flows. That means we directly do not experience the current, but whenever we switch on, suppose for a fan, then fan starts to rotate, means we can see that due to the current the fan revolves or rotates. So in this way we have experienced in our day-to-day life that due to current many gadgets or many appliances they work. Even in a nature, lightning is an example of electric current. Lightning is a phenomena in which the charges flow from the clouds to the earth. Now students, in the phenomena of lightning, a high potential difference is generated between the clouds and the ground. Due to that, what happens? The charges they will flow either from clouds to the earth or from earth to the clouds, and the medium in between is air. But we know that air is a bad conductor. But when the high potential is generated between the clouds and the ground, even the air becomes ionized and it will allow the current to flow. And during the lightning, the current which is flowing through the atmosphere is unsteady. That means it is not constant during its flow, and that type of current is called a transient current. Now an example of steady current means in our day-to-day life we use many devices where the charges flow in a steady manner. Suppose if you have switch on any light, so during that switch on, what happens? The current constantly steadily flows through that component, that is a bulb, and that is a example of steady current. The current will remain constant till the light is on. Also, a cell driven clock, a torch, etc. are the examples of a steady flow of current. Now electric current, students, in a simple way we can say that the flow of charge with time is nothing but it is current. But here the proper definition is written: the net amount of charges flowing across the cross section of a conductor in the forward direction in the time interval t is called current I. So for a steady current, the formula can be simply written as I is equal to Q by T. But if the current is not steady, it changes with time, then what happens? we have to consider the small charge flowing for small interval of time. Again, that is I only. So I is equal to either q by t or dq by dt. The formula is same only. In numerator there is q, that is charge only, and in denominator it is time only. So this is for unsteady current. Now about unit. Unit of current is ampere. Symbolically you can write it as capital A. It is a new physical quantity. Generally we use MLT only, but whenever there is a concept of charge or current, a new physical quantity, and its symbol for dimension is A. So here for current it is A raised to 1. There is no dimension for M, L and T. So dimensional formula of electric current is this. Now students, from this figure also you can see that this is a good conductor in which there are free charge particle, that is electrons are always present. So whenever the current flows in a conductor, we can say that from any cross section of this conductor the charge will flow in one direction, and when the charge they flow in one direction, the current is constituted. The electrons they used to flow in this direction, but the direction of current is conventionally taken as opposite to that of the flow of electrons. So the current is taken in the direction opposite to the flow of the charge. Now next topic is electric current in a conductors. Now students, we know that whenever the electric field is applied to the free charge particles, the force will act on it, and this we have studied in first chapter, that force F is equal to Q into E. So here also for a solid conductors, that is consider a metallic rod, a rod made up of iron or copper or aluminum, etc. So they are solid conductors. In that the current is always due to free electrons, and the free electrons they used to move when the electric force is applied on it. Also electrolytic solutions, that is liquid. In electrolytic solutions also the current flows, but that current is due to the positive ions and the negative ions both used to move or flow in a solution, and so the current is due to both the positive as well as negative charges. But here in this chapter we will focus only on the solid conductors. Now students, let us consider a conductor. In a conductor the positive charges they are fixed at their places, they cannot move from their place, but the electrons they are free to move. So what happens when the electric field is not applied? That is, if the electric field is zero across the conductor, then these electrons they will flow randomly. You can see the direction of the motion of the electrons are random. So in that case, for any cross section if you consider, then the net amount of flow of electrons in one direction is zero, because as they are in a random, the summation will give you 0 through any cross sectional area. And so if the net charge flowing, that is summation of q, is equal to 0, then the current will also be 0. Now what happens if the electric field is applied? Now suppose the electric field is applied to this conductor in this direction. That means here suppose there is a positive and a negative of any battery. Suppose a battery is connected like this. So a positive terminal is connected at this end and the negative terminal of the battery is connected at this end. So what happens here? The electric field is developed from positive to negative in a conductor. So in that case, now these charged particles, that is electrons, they are in a electric field now, and so the force will act on them, and we have studied that the force on a negative charge is opposite to the electric field, and so now all these free electrons will experience a force in this direction opposite to electric field, and so through any cross section area we'll get the flow of charges in one direction, and hence there will be a current in a conductor. And as I said earlier, the positive charges, they are fixed at their places, and so these electrons, they will move in between the space of positive charges, and the direction of the current is opposite to that of the flow of electrons. Now students, the direction of the current is opposite to that of the flow of electrons. Current was discovered before the discovery of electrons. So when the current flows, earlier it was believed that it is due to some positive charge particles, and so its direction is taken along the direction of the positive charge particles. But afterwards, due to discovery of electrons, it was found that actually the current is due to free electrons, and electrons, they used to move in the opposite direction, and so whatever the direction was considered before the discovery of electrons, that that direction is considered as it is, and so conventionally the direction is opposite to that of the electrons, that is for the current. Now next topic, 3.4, is about Ohm's law. Now this is a basic law regarding the flow of current given by a scientist named G.S. Ohm, and so it is called Ohm's law. According to Ohm, potential V is directly proportional to I. Means if we will increase the current, then potential will also increase, or if we will increase the potential, then current will also increase linearly for a given conductor. And so if we will remove this proportionality sign, there must be some constant, and here that constant is nothing but the resistance of a conductor. So here this R is called the resistance of a conductor, and it is constant for a given conductor. Now resistance means it is the property to oppose the flow of electrons or any charged particles. Now unit of resistance R is ohm on the name of scientist only, and symbol is omega. This symbol is omega, or you can simply say it as ohm. Now, dimensions. Students, if we want the dimensional formula, then we know that there must be some equation related to that physical quantity whose dimension is to be obtained. So we have this relation V is equal to IR. Make the subject R, you will get it as V by I. So put the dimension of V that we already know in earlier chapters. We know what is the unit or the dimension of V. Dimension of I, that is also known to us. It is A, that is ampere. So if you will combine these two dimensions, you will easily find that the dimension of resistance R is M1 L2 T raised to minus 3 and A raised to minus 2. Now, for a conductor at a given temperature, the resistance R depends on the type of the material. Means at constant temperature, on what does this resistance depends? It depends on the material of the wire or a conductor, and also its dimensions. Now dimension means the length of the conductor, breadth of the conductor, its physical conditions, that is dimensions. Length, breadth, height, radius, area, these all are considered as a dimensions. Now here, if we consider a cylindrical conductor, then we know that it has a length and it has a cross sectional area, means its thickness is given by its cross section. So it was found that the resistance is directly proportional to length, means if the length of the conductor increases, then also resistance increases. If the length decreases, then resistance will decrease. So it is directly proportional to length L. Also it was found that R is inversely proportional to cross sectional area, means if the area is increased, then resistance will decrease. Means if we will take some thick conductor whose cross section area is more, then the resistance will be less for that conductor. So combining these two, that is R is directly proportional to L and R is inversely proportional to its cross sectional area, we get R is proportional to L by A. Once again, if we remove this proportionality sign, then we have to put some constant, and here this constant is resistivity of the conductor. The symbol is called rho. So now, unit of resistivity, you can make the subject rho, and you will get here rho is equal to R A by L from this formula, and you can easily make out that R has a unit of ohm. So it is here. Unit of length is in meter, area is in meter square. So 1 meter cancel out, only 1 meter remain. So it is here. So unit of resistivity is ohm meter. And again, if you know the unit or the formula, you can easily obtain the dimensions. Now students, this resistivity. It is a property of any material. Means if I take a copper wire, then its resistivity is different. If I take the wire made up of aluminum, then its resistivity will be different. If I take a wire made up of iron, then also the value of this resistivity will be different. Means for different materials, the value of resistivity will be different. So resistivity does not depend on the dimensions of the conductor. Whatever the dimension is, it depends only on its material as well as the temperature of that material and the pressure applied on that material or a conductor. So finally we can say that the resistivity depends on the type of the material, its temperature and the pressure. It does not depend on the dimensions of the conductor. Now, opposite of resistivity or inverse of resistivity is conductivity. Symbol is sigma. So sigma is 1 by rho. It is equivalent to 1 upon rho. Now, an important physical quantity, current density, symbolically represented by J, small j, and it is a vector quantity. Now, according to definition, it says that the electric current density at any point is defined as the amount of electric current flowing per unit cross-sectional area normal to the current at that point. Means, if we consider this conductor, then when the charge particles they flow through any cross-sectional area of a conductor, then due to this flow of charge particle we get the current, and a cross-sectional area is suppose A. So current flowing per unit cross-sectional area is nothing but it is current density J. Means if I say more charge particles are moving through this cross-sectional area, then current will also more. So if the current is more, then current density is also more for the same cross-sectional area. Let me give you a better example. Suppose we consider a conductor. Here it is thicker and then it becomes thin. Here the cross-sectional area is more and here the cross-sectional area is less. So if the current I is flowing through this conductor, then the same current will flow through this cross-sectional area also, that is I only. But you can see the current is same through both the cross-sectional area, but here the area is more and here the area is less. So students, here the current density is less and here the current density will be more. Now about unit of current density. Students, as I said earlier, that if you know the formula, you can easily obtain the unit as well as the dimension. So every time I'll not show you why this unit is ampere per meter square, why this dimension is m naught l raised to minus 2 t raised to 0 and a raised to 1. So I hope you will be able to understand. Next is about relation between electric field E, current density J, and resistivity rho. Now the relation between these three physical quantity is given by E is equal to 0. Also students, we know that this rho and sigma, that is resistivity rho and sigma, they are inversely proportional to each other, and so the above equation, that is this equation, can be written as this also. How? I'll show you. In this equation, make the subject J. So J is equal to E upon rho, but upon rho, that is this 1 upon rho is sigma. So here in place of this 1 upon rho, we can put sigma. So it will become sigma E. So a new relation can be obtained as J is equal to sigma E. So this type of formulas can be used for MCQs, for short problems or examples. Now about drift of electrons and the origin of resistivity. We know that students, in any conductor there is a resistance, more or less. So from where does this resistance or the resistivity arise? Now to understand this resistivity, let us consider a conductor and an electric field is applied to this conductor. Now suppose if the electric field is not applied. In that case, if any electron is moving from point A to point B in the absence of electric field, and that motion is a random motion only, these electrons, they will not move in a straight path. Why? Because during their motion they will collide with the positive ions in between. So in their path they will collide with the positive ions, and so when they collide, their direction of path will change. Again they will collide, and again the direction of path will change. So their motion is random motion, zigzag type. Now if the electric field is applied, what happens? Earlier, if any electron is covering this much path, then in the presence of electric field, it will cover more path, that is up to B dash. Earlier it was only up to B. So in the presence of electric field, this much displacement is extra, or resultant displacement can be considered this much, and for this much displacement it will take some time also, and so displacement upon time is velocity, and here this velocity is called a drift velocity Vd. Why drift? It is because during the motion this electron constantly or continuously collides with the other particles in a conductor, and so what happens? Every time their velocity becomes zero on collision, then once again due to this electric force they will again get the velocity due to acceleration, because whenever there is a force on any particle, there is a acceleration. So every time its velocity as well as direction changes, and so that type of motion is called a drift motion, and the velocity related to it is called a drift velocity. So here also, in the presence of electric field, the force acting on the electron is given by this formula. We have studied this in first chapter, that F is equal to a charged particle in an electric field, and as the electron has negative charge, here there is a minus. So let us give this equation number 1, that is force on an electron. Also, electron has a mass, and so according to Newton's law, F is equal to ma. Then if we'll make the subject A in this equation, then we'll get A is equal to F by m. But what is force F? F is equal to minus EE from this equation number 1. So in place of F, we will use the equation of 1, and so we'll get A is equal to minus EE by m. So this much acceleration is produced in an electron, and so if we want to find the velocity related to this drift motion, then we know that velocity is acceleration into time. But here, between the two successive collisions, because as I said, this electron during its motion collides many times, and so between the successive collisions the time interval will be very less, and so that time, which is very small, is denoted by this symbol tau, and this tau is known as relaxation time. And so drift velocity Vd is given by acceleration into time, that is tau. But what is acceleration A? It is EE by m. So using equation number 2, here we will get Vd is equal to this, because acceleration we have kept. So in a vector form, we can write drift velocity as this equation. Negative sign it is because the velocity of the electrons and that the electric field applied is opposite to each other. But if we write only the magnitude, then we can write the same formula without negative sign and the vectors. So students, I hope you understand this, the concept of drift velocity, why it is called drift velocity, what is relaxation time. So now an important relation will be there between the drift velocity and the current density. Whenever the drift velocity is asked to obtain, and if the current density is given, then we can use this formula, J is equal to NE Vd. Now here in this formula, we know what is J, it is current density. What is V, that is drift velocity. What is E? E is charge on an electron, which is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. But what is N here? N is the number density of electrons in a conductor. How much free electrons are there in that much volume of a conductor? That is number density. So we can write N is equal to number of charged particles, that is electrons here, upon volume of a conductor. Now about example number 3.1. In this example, given that there is a copper wire whose cross-sectional area is given 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter square. Also, the current flowing through the conductor is given, which is 1.5 ampere, and density, this is mass density. We know that the symbol rho is also used for resistivity, but here the density of the copper wire is given. So here this symbol rho is used for this mass density, and it is 9 into 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. And what is this density? So we can write this rho is equal to mass upon volume. So students, don't get confused by these symbols. Here also you can see the symbol is V. V is used for potential difference also, but here this V is for volume of a conductor. Now if the mass per unit volume is density, then we can say that in a unit volume how much mass is there. So in a unit volume this much mass is there for a conductor. Now here this mass is given in terms of kg. So if we consider this mass in terms of gram, then here power will be 3 and plus 3, because we are converting from kilogram to gram. So I have written here mass of this conductor, that is of copper wire, is 9 into 10 raised to 6 gram per meter cube. Now students, you are supposed to go through the statement given in your textbook. You will find that the atomic mass of the copper is given, that is 63.5 U. I have used the symbol for this atomic mass as capital M. Now from this given data, we want to find drift velocity, as well as in second part, that is B, we want to find drift speed upon the speed, that is thermal speed of copper atom. Means at any given temperature that copper atom used to vibrate with some speed, with some average speed. So that is called its thermal speed. So comparison is to be made between drift speed and the thermal speed of copper atom, and then we have to also compare drift speed with the speed of this electric field. So now let us start with first part, that is A, that is Vd. Now as I said earlier, whenever we need to find the drift velocity, you have to remember this formula. Current density J is equal to NE Vd. But what is J? J is equal to I by A. And so in place of J, I have placed I by A. Now we need to find Vd, and so we will make the subject Vd. So we'll get this formula. Vd is equal to I upon NEA. Let us give this equation number 1. Now students, in this equation, I is given, cross sectional area is also given, charge of an electron is known to us, that is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb, but we don't know the number density of these electrons. So that number density can be obtained by this method. Now atomic mass is given 63.5. So if we consider this much mass, that is 63.5 gram mass, then that will contain this much atoms of copper. And in a statement it is given that each copper atom provides one free electron. So in this much mass, this much copper atoms are there, and so the free electrons also. And so if this much mass is given m, how much number will be there of this copper atom for this much mass? Again students, for this much mass, the number of copper atoms are this much, that is Avogadro's number. And actually we have the mass this much, 9 into 10 raised to 6 gram per meter cube. And so the number of copper atoms per meter cube can be obtained for this much mass. So simply cross multiplication, m into Na is equal to m into n, and if we make the subject n, we get this formula: n is equal to Na into m upon capital M. I hope you get it. Do the rough work if you need, because I always tell you to sit with a notebook, a textbook, and a pen so that you can calculate this. Now, Na is Avogadro's number, mass is also mentioned in the given condition, and atomic mass is given. So using these values, we get number of copper atoms in 1 meter cube of copper will be this much. So that is number density, because it is per meter cube, so this will be number density. And so if this much copper atoms are there, then that much free electrons are also there, and hence now as n is obtained, now we can use this equation number 1. So now using all the values in this equation, we get this answer. Students, you can use calculator for this calculation, and it is quite simple. So every time I not need to show this calculation, that how we have to do this calculation, because you have already done this type of calculations. Now about the thermal speed of copper atom. Speed has an energy, and energy related to speed is kinetic energy. And so here I have written half m dash v square. Why this is m dash? It is because already we have used m earlier also. So here this m dash is nothing but it is mass of copper atom, mass of Cu atom. So it is m dash now. And this much kinetic energy is equal to kinetic energy due to temperature, that is thermal energy. Now here we have to consider normal temperature, means room temperature, and room temperature is nearly 27 degrees Celsius. Generally we use 27 degrees Celsius as a normal temperature, but here it is in Celsius, so we will convert that into Kelvin. So it will be 300 Kelvin. Now making the subject v square in this equation, 2 will cancel, and you will get this. Now in this equation, simply putting the values. 3 is a number only. Kb is a Boltzmann constant. Its value is this much. Temperature is 300 Kelvin. And m dash is mass of copper atom. Now this mass of copper atom can be obtained in this way. Students, mass of any copper atom can be obtained by mass of its atomic number upon Avogadro's number. So m by capital Na will give you mass of one copper atom. So using all these values, we get the answer in calculator as 1.17, and then power you can calculate separately, and that will be 10 raised to 5. But here this answer obtained is still it is v square, but we want only v and not the square, so we have to make the square root of this. But whenever the power is odd number, the square root is not possible for odd numbers, so we will make this odd number as even, that is 5 to 4, and so 1, that 10 is multiplied here. Students, I hope you understand this. Here it is 1.17, I made it 11.7, and so 1 power is reduced here. And so now we can take the square root. So take the square root of 11.7, you will get it as 3.42, and square root of 10 raised to 4 is simply make the power half, so it is 10 raised to 2. So velocity related to the thermal oscillations of copper atom is obtained this. Now we want to compare this velocity with the drift speed. So taking the ratio, whenever there is comparison, we have to take the ratio. So drift speed upon thermal speed of copper atom is of the order of 10 raised to minus 5. How this is obtained? So students, we know that when there is power, we can neglect this because we want to take the approximate comparison. We have to do approximate comparison, so we'll not consider this number, we'll consider only the power. So here power is 10 raised to 2 for thermal speed, and for drift velocity the power is 10 raised to minus 3. No need to consider this. So in numerator the power is 10 raised to minus 3, and in denominator the power is 10 raised to 2. So finally you will get 10 raised to minus 5, and hence we can say that as the power is negative, drift speed is small compared to the thermal speed. And so we have to write this statement also, that the drift speed is about 10 raised to minus 5 times the thermal speed of copper atom at room temperature. Now we need to compare drift speed with the speed of electric field. Second part of B. Once again, considering the power only. What is drift speed? So it is of the order of 10 raised to minus 3. And what is speed of electric field? Students, speed of electric field is that of the electromagnetic waves, that is speed of light, and that is of the order of 10 raised to 8. Actual speed is 3 into 10 raised to 8. But as I said, when the power is large enough, we can neglect this term. So 10 raised to 8. Now combining this two, if we bring 10 raised to 8 in numerator, it will be minus 8. So minus 3 and minus 8, it will be minus 11. So power of 10 will be minus 11. So again, this comparison shows that the drift speed of electron is very much small that of the speed of electric field. And so finally, you have to mention the answer in this way, that drift speed is about 10 raised to minus 11 times the speed of electric field. So students, I hope you understood this also. Generally, this second part, that is B part, is not asked in the examination. So A part is very much important for the examination point of view. Now about example number 3.2. Students, if the previous concepts of these chapters are clear to you, then you can easily answer these small questions. The questions are also given, and their answers, that is reason behind that answer, is also given here, and you will be easily able to understand it. So no need to explain this, but still, if you have any doubt related to this example or earlier topics, you can definitely ask me. No need to hesitate. You are free to ask.